Well, appreciate everybody being here today. Obviously, big day for us, getting back on the practice field for an unbelievable challenge coming up this weekend down in Jonesboro. Got a chance on the bye week to really address some issues, clean some things up, get some recruiting done, get ahead on some of our opponents that are upcoming, make some fundamental program adjustments that we kind of had mapped out back in the summer. And now we got to get prepared for a really good Arkansas State football team that's playing extremely well. Arguably the hottest team in the conference right now on the 4-game win streak. Doing a really good job of finding ways to have gritty wins. I truly believe good teams find ways to win games, bad teams find ways to lose them. Over the last month, Arkansas State has done a really good job of finding ways to win games. Coach Butch Jones does a phenomenal job. You can see the culture, you can see the process that they have, how they go about it. I think they play extremely hard on both sides of the ball. I think their quarterback is arguably the best quarterback in the conference. I can't rate ours because obviously I'm a little bit biased, but the kid's dangerous. He can make all the throws. Obviously, he can activate his legs. I think he's taken a step in growth from last year to this year, or from when he was a freshman and we played him at the other place. He's not just pulling the ball down to run now. He's pulling it down and still keeping his eyes downfield, which creates a whole nother set of issues. I think their O-line does a really good job of finishing blocks. Probably the best group of receivers as a core that we've faced all year. Offensively, they stress you with different formations. They play with tempo. You always got to have a quarterback player with eyes on the quarterback, probably 2 quarterback players because of his ability, which takes guys out of coverage or out of your run fits. Or they have dual responsibilities. They got a run fit and a quarterback responsibility, which is all extremely tough. Defensively, their defensive line probably plays as hard as any group we've seen. They play with a high motor, a lot of effort. The back end, they stress you with a lot of different coverages. I think they're doing a really good job of mixing up different looks to formations. So it's going to be a challenge. I expect a really hostile environment. Their fans do a really good job of supporting. So I expect 11 o'clock kickoff to be rocking down there in their stadium. I've never been there, but I've heard it's one of the nicer stadiums and setups in the conference. They've done a really good job over the history of their time in this league of improving facilities and improving their profile. So it's going to be a challenge for us. By no means are we overlooking them. Truly, the word appropriate fear comes into play. Probably for the head coach here is a little bit more of true fear when you watch these guys play. Even when you watch games in the beginning of the season when they were battling the schedule of P4 teams and those type of teams, they were in the games. And 1 or 2 plays here didn't go their way. The last 4 games, those plays have gone their way, but they've never been out of a game. They've never been blown out, if that makes sense. Arkansas is probably the biggest score differential that they've had, even against Iowa State. They're in the game, they're competing. A couple plays here or there, even games where they get behind Texas State, Georgia Southern, Kennesaw State. They lost that game, they battled back at the very end. So they're definitely a scary team. We've got a lot of work to do to focus on what we can control and how we play. It starts with how we prepare. I thought we had a really good day yesterday. Even over the break, our leaders had guys watching film. Braylon, Chris Jones, those guys are in the group text making sure guys are watching the game, even though we were off that week. When they came in Sunday, they came in with a really good knowledge base, a little bit farther ahead than some of our opponents. So we've got to continue to prepare the rest of this week, and then we got to go play really well. Doesn't matter how much attention you put on the team if you don't go out and execute. So our players are fully understanding what we're walking into. We got to finish this week off the right way.
Coach, I think you get to it already. Coach Jones, I hit that bye week. It almost just from what I've been able to read, he just reevaluated everything. You really got it dialed in. Can you you point to anything that you saw that maybe they did differently, or
I don't know.
maybe made it easier for Rayner?
Yeah, I don't know if, how they were doing things at the beginning. I do know when you look at your schedule and you got some, P4 opponents, it changes how you kind of install. You got to try and run things that you think are going to give you a chance, which may not be your base. You look at what we did against Mississippi State compared to what we're doing now, it's different. I think, again, in today's college football, depending on how you go through camp, we put a lot of time into getting to know guys, getting the culture right. Depending on how you do that, depends on how quickly guys gel. Depending on how you do that, you get an idea of, from a coach's perspective, who is this guy? Some of the guys that you don't know or you don't get until maybe June, well, who is this guy? When he's not getting the reps that he wanted to, or when he's not having the success, or when something goes on at home. I think that takes time. We've been in a really good situation. Obviously, we know a lot of our guys, so that helps. The guys that we didn't know, it allowed me to focus a little bit more on those guys particularly, because we had kind of already had a knowledge base of a good group of guys. Doesn't mean that group that we know still doesn't need to be coached, developed, all those things, but you can put a little bit more intentional work on getting to know some of the new guys. I think that takes time. I think what has happened is the mistakes or the things that didn't go well for them early in the season are going well for them now, and momentum is real. Once you can see, their confidence is high. They're playing with a lot more. Kids call it swagger. Whatever you want to say. It's really confidence. They're playing with a lot more confidence now, knowing that, hey, we can win these games regardless of what happens first play, second play, third play. And you can see that as you watch, the film as the game goes on. There's some moments in there where there's a lot of teams that would pack it in because of the score. This team doesn't do that. They actually get more dangerous, as the game goes on. So it's going to be a challenge.
Is it easier for the defense to prepare for a quarterback like Rayner because they see Braylon Braxton in practice? Obviously, Braxton's not live, but they have the same similar skill running, passing.
It's difficult because, again, getting the person on the ground is the tough part, right? You can, if we went out there and played two-hand touch, we'd be okay. We may be able to get one hand on the guy. But when you got to get the guy on the ground, that's the tough part. And then getting him on the ground at full speed, space, understanding all the situational things that go with it, that's what makes it tough. As far as playing coverage or the routes or rushing, that's not as difficult as actually getting the guy on the ground. That's the tough part. And it changes how you approach a guy when you know he has the ability to make you miss, when you know he has the ability to pull it and run, when you know he has the ability to pull it, run, still make a throw. That makes it tough. So you could say from when Braylon takes off in practice, we know how to run to a running quarterback, but I don't know if if we went live, if we'd get Braylon on the ground every time. So those are the things that are a little bit more difficult to kind of carry into a game. The actual playing the plays, we can cover the routes, we can be in the right spots. Actually getting people on the ground is the tough part, and when you have a guy that is that electric like Rayner is, getting him on the ground is tough, because not only do you have to rush from a pass perspective with really good discipline, you got to be ready once I reach the ear of the quarterback. If I ain't to him, I got to retrace. Well, when I retrace, is he making a throw? Is he stepping up? Is he checking it down? Is he throwing the ball? Whatever it may be. It just makes it more difficult when you actually have to get a person on the ground. Tackling in space is probably the hardest thing to do in football, next to blocking in space. That's why special teams is such a difficult thing to do. You got a guy running full speed at you. I got to block him, in space. It's hard to tackle a human in space. It's really hard, especially as athletic as Rayner.
What do you think the team improved on the most during the bye week?
Yeah, I thought we did a really good job. We had kind of mapped it out. Every three, or when you look at the bye weeks we've had one every 3-4 weeks. So we've wanted to add a little bit of something to our offense, defense, and special teams each time we got a bye week, because you get a little bit more time to slow down the teaching. You're not cross-teaching where you're teaching something new and a new game plan. So I thought they did a really good job of absorbing the new, because it's really just another step off of what we're doing, but absorbing the new. I thought they did a really good job of managing how we manage the reps. You know, the ones still need to get their reps, but how we got the twos involved. That can become a distraction, because if you're used to taking 100 reps and you're only taking 80, you know, you could mentally get distant, but I thought they stayed locked into what we were trying to do. And then I thought we did a really good job of our preliminary pre-scouts on some of the teams, right? It's hard to get ready for a game when you know you don't have a game, but the mental disposition to understand that the time that we had to use the right way, I thought they handled that well.
Arkansas State defensively, because last week they were really creating a lot of pressure. You know, what did you just notice, you know, and how do you kind of prepare for their defensive line this week?
Yeah, I thought, you know, again, they made some really good plays schematically, but I don't know, they got 9 sacks. I don't know the exact number, but a good bit of those were effort sacks. I mean, they were just out efforting the opponent. It wasn't always a perfect twist or call. It was just some guys who had a relentless mindset of getting to the quarterback. And that's the part that's tough. You can scheme up and block a scheme, block a twist, block a slant, block a blitz. But when a guy makes his mind up that I'm getting to the quarterback, that's difficult to say this is how we're going to stop it. It takes the other guy on the other side saying that I got an unbelievable determination not to let you get to the quarterback. So I thought they did a really good job with their effort. I thought they did a really good job of having discipline in their rush. They weren't just running up the field. They had discipline in the rush lanes, and then their unbelievable desire or relentless pursuit to get to the quarterback. It seemed like as they got 1, they got 2, they got 3, and they got 4. That's the part that makes them really dangerous.
Coach, off of Scott's question, I mean, they quickly made Troy one-dimensional and then feasted on the QB. You talk about the importance of the plan to stay balanced.
Yeah, I think you got to have a plan. If they take something completely away, they can really hone in on the other. I think that's a little bit of what happened with Troy. They were able to do a really good job of stopping the run, which put Troy in some positions to have to throw, and they were able to take advantage of that. So we've got to do a really good job of staying balanced, and that doesn't necessarily mean 50-50, but that means, you know, staying ahead of the sticks, putting yourself in advantageous situations, being able to stay out of 3rd and longs, you know, be able to run the ball with efficiency, meaning when we need to run it, we can run it. Not saying that every run's going to go for 80 yards, but understanding that the run balance keeps linebackers from just either dropping or keeps linebackers from just, you know, flying downhill. It keeps D linemen from just pass rushing. So that balance on offense is going to be key.
Do you expect Jeffrey Pittman to be back this week?
Yeah, he was really good. The pitch counts are about balanced, you know, now from all 3 of those guys. Jalen Carter even helped out a little bit with that in the game. So feel good about that. That'll help the run game, hopefully, that we can block these guys and get some. We're going to need all of them, and that was kind of the reason, you know, we were kind of, let's be pitch count cautious here. We got a bye week coming up, and we've got a stretch here that we don't get another break. So we need to make sure that we've been blessed. I think it's a combination of the good Lord takes care of you. I think our nutrition and strength conditioning program is phenomenal. You know, knock on wood, we've been moderately healthy, you know, which gives us a chance to continue to rotate guys, which gives us a chance to stay, have variety in what we do. You know, it's not like, hey, this guy's out, so we got to do this. So that's a big piece of what we're, you know, hoping the next couple of weeks will allow us to do, which can give us some advantage down the road.
Just a thought, I don't know where I'm really going with it, just curious really.
Is this on your show or is this just from?
No, just me.
Okay, all right, good. Go ahead.
Braylon last year was a real run weapon for you guys, the design run stuff. You haven't had to do that so much here, or not so much
We haven't called it.
Hadn't done it yet. That's where I'm going with this, and you talked about adding some things get tougher as you go, games get bigger. I mean, he's obviously a weapon in that regard, just maybe expound on that thought a little bit.
Yeah, you work for FanDuel now, or you and Butch like cousins, or you want to
Well,
get the
he
game?
did call me that.
Yeah, he probably did. He's a good guy. Yeah, there's a lot. There's some offensive things that we've got to do. And you got to kind of, you know, do you run them against Mississippi State and run the risk of, you know, the next 8, 9, 10 games, you know, being in a different situation? Do you run him early in the season if you don't have to? Or do you run him as you get close to crunch time? Those are decisions you got to make. Defensively, you know, there's some things that we've been adding to the defense. Well, when do you spring them out? Some of that is situational based. Some of that is opponent based. There's some things that we had to do last week that we don't have to do this week because of the personnel and formations and type of offense that is we're going against. You know, special teams wise, you know, we haven't run trick plays on special teams yet. We've been repping them since August. You know, when do you spring them out? I think all that goes into it, and that's what the bye week was really about. You know, okay, what have we been doing that we can prime up to be ready? What have we been waiting on prime up to be ready? Big thing, I'm probably like the paranoid, you know, lieutenant. We changed all our signals, you know, over the bye week. Not because, you know, I don't think there's Spygate, or I don't think the guy from Michigan's working for Butch, although Butch did work at Central Michigan. I just think at some point when you're good, you know, people have to find ways to, you know, attack you. So obviously you can't switch signals in the middle of a week when you're trying to install and get a game plan ready. So we were able to go a full week with these new signals, you know, new signal operation. I think that's a big piece of it. Is it because we're playing Arkansas State? No, it's because we had a bye week midway through the year, and you got to check your own oil, right? We did a huge self-scout. You know, there's some formations that we line up to the exact same every time. We can't do that anymore. There's some formations on offense that, you know, we line up in and we're, you know, 90% this or 90% that. Well, we can't do that anymore. You know, that's just common sense. So a little bit of what you're getting to, now do we use it all this week, or is there something down the road? You know, that will be, you know, you have to wait till 11 o'clock on Saturday to see that. But all of that, you know, how much do you run Braylon? When do you call the trick plays? You know, when do you change your tendencies? When do you change your signals? Did it make sense to change them in the first bye week? No, we had 3-4 games on film, you know, so you're changing them to change them again. Does it make sense to, you know, at this point we've got some guys who have played limited reps who've done a really good job. You know, how much more do they get when you start rotating guys? You know, being healthy is a positive. You can rotate some more guys. Having a group of running backs where their pitch counts are similar means now we don't have to watch, man, you know, Pittman's at 31, you know, that's a lot, you know, he's hot though, you can't take him out, you know, now we can kind of roll the dice and play them as they come. So there's a lot of things that, you know, in this next part of the season, you know, we've been priming for that we got to use at the right time, if that makes sense.
Coach, you had mentioned in the past how at times the defensive line can be a little bit undisciplined as the weeks have kind of gone on, and you know, off the bye week, how do you feel like they can maybe improve on that, or if they have?
Yeah, I think every week it's a new challenge. You know, there's different ways. You know, when you talk about run gap accountability, you know, depending on the type of front you're playing, depending on the type of team you're playing. Do you want to be an upfield defense? Do you want to be a gap control defense? Do you want to keep the backers free? Do you want to, you know, tie the backers down? I think over the course of the season, our guys have been able to adapt well. I think this is going to be a completely new challenge. I don't think we faced any quarterback anywhere near where Rayner is from a complete threat. You know, we've had some guys that could throw it. You know, I thought Shapen could throw it well. The guy from, I believe it was Jacksonville State, had some mobility. But putting the two together where they could beat you with your arm and their legs and the mental piece. I mean, he gets the ball up and out quick. I mean, means he knows where it should be going early. He's not holding on to it. He has not been sacked a lot, which means he's fully understanding that, hey, I've got a time clock in my head. I've got to go 1 to 2 to 3, get out of here, 1 to 2, 3, step up, check it down. This play's dead to the right, so I got to go to the left. You can see that in his kind of progression, throughout games. So our D-line is going to have to do a great job of kind of adapting for this week because it's a little bit different.
Coach, how about the offensive line? Despite the fact a lot of new guys that have never really played together, it seems like they've become pretty much a good unit. What have you seen there, and what do you kind of attribute that to?
Yeah, well, one, to them, because they put a lot of work in. They work really hard. Coach Coughlin, Coach Gibbs, I mean, they work at it. I think, two, we've been able to stay moderately healthy. So we've been able to keep guys in their bus seats. The more continuity you have with that unit, the more consistency you should have. And then I think, again, we've got some older, mature guys. And they've been able to self-assess, what do I need to do to get ready to practice? What do I need to do to get ready to meet? What do I need to do to get ready to play? And then there's a high accountability level in that room. Like, no one wants to be the guy that gets Braylon hit. No one wants to be the guy that gives up a negative play. So a lot of testament to them. They've done a really good job, and they're developing, they're getting better, more and more consistent. And then finally, I think Blake's done a really good job of okay, this is what we can do. We're going to ask them to do what they can do and minimize, with their deficiencies. And I think that's really helped them. It's helped build some confidence, and hopefully that can continue Saturday afternoon.
I'm curious to know how you feel, how Jack Murley has grown, since the time he came in. I know you had a personal week, but how he kind of improved throughout the season.
Yeah, I think, again, when you look back, that word development is fickle, right? I mean, you say it and people think it means 4 years. You say it and it's like, well, when they're going to develop. I think he's a perfect example of it. I mean, he came in new to the game, was here, a month, obviously in camp, got here middle of camp, first couple weeks of the season. He's starting to get a little bit of a rhythm, first time in a game, and then all of a sudden he's got a setback. Then he's gone for 2 weeks, and it takes him a week to get back. And now you're starting to see a little consistency show up. He's been able to down some punts inside the 5, which are huge. He's been able to give us some kick variety, with the different types of kicks he can do. And he's starting to develop some confidence. He's starting to tell us, hey, I want to hit this kick, or hey, I like it in the wind this way. But I think that's what development is about. And the tough part, especially at specialists, is you got to do it in a game. You can go over on the putting green and you can putt like Tiger, but when there's a million people watching at home and you're at Augusta, that putter shakes a little bit, so you got to get in a game to actually do it. And I think that's what's helped him, really come on these last couple of weeks. He's been a huge asset to us, flipping the field when we need to, pinning teams deep when we need to. It's given us the ability to relieve Reed from some punting and kicking duties, which I think he has improved because of it. And overall, our special teams is playing a lot more consistent. You're going to be explosive on the special team when you got explosive returners. That's what it's going to be. And then typically at this point in the season, if you do have explosive returners, you probably don't get too many chances, right? Teams are going to kick away from you, whatever it may be. But when you have consistent kickers, punters, snappers, you should see consistency in your special teams, and we're starting to see that.
Anything else?
All right, thanks, guys. We appreciate you guys. Look forward to seeing you guys down in Jonesboro this weekend. Southern Miss? Thanks.
Obviously, just a huge culture shock possibly from where you came from to here. Can you kind of speak to that in the adjustment period?
Yeah, for sure. For me, growing up, I grew up in a big city back in Australia, so coming to Hattiesburg is a little bit different to what I'm used to, but I was lucky enough that I'd traveled to the US quite a few times previous to being here, so I'd seen the big cities in the US, and last year had a chance to kind of travel through some college towns and see the South a little bit, and yeah, it's been awesome since I've got here. A beautiful place, great people. Everyone's been so welcoming and loving and caring towards me, which has obviously made the transition a lot easier, feeling like I've got a good support network here. But yeah, it's a lot different to back home for sure.
Can you speak a little bit about the process? Is it an academy or something you guys have over there where U.S. coaches are able to find you guys and bring you over? Because it's becoming more and more of a problem.
Yeah, for sure. So back home, we've got an academy called Pro Kick Australia, which is run by Nathan Chapman and John Smith. And essentially it gives Australian football players who have grown up playing our national sport, AFL, an opportunity to transition into American football, learn how to punt in an American context. And yeah, you kind of go through that academy. You get used to kicking in American football, which is a little bit smaller than the one that we're used to and not as forgiving. You know, and in our game, we don't really spiral the ball. So learning how to spiral, how to utilize the ball in that way, and that's why you see so many of us Aussies utilizing that rollout, that drop punt, or rugby style that a lot of people call it. We call it a drop punt back home in the game, and it just gives us a bit of versatility. We've got kind of different skills that we've grown up utilizing. But yeah, it's really cool coming into this context, and yeah, it's crazy as well at the same time because I'd never played a proper organised game of American football until the first game against Mississippi State, and having 11 guys running at you, trying to get you, and that's their one job was a fun experience. But yeah, I'm just slowly learning, growing, getting better, more confident with the game, and yeah, really enjoying the process.
What have you learned in about 6 or 7 games so far this year? I mean,
What I've learnt is it goes quick, the game goes quick. I think for us as specialists as well, as you have very minimal opportunity and chance to make a play that can really affect the game in a positive way. And of course, if you don't do your job, it can affect the team in a negative way. So for me, the big thing is just constantly trying to be as consistent as I can to do my job and adjusting to that pressure in the moment of stepping out there and doing that in the game when you've got pressure and you know the team needs a play. So, but yeah, I've loved the experience and kind of learning and growing in that.
Coach Huff has talked a lot about kind of like the way you kick the ball is different than a lot of other players you're used to seeing. Can you maybe speak on that a little bit, but also your development in that?
Yeah, for sure. So, like I said, we've got our kind of drop punt, our Aussie style kick. So we kind of hold the ball a little bit differently, and that gets that backspin on the ball. And especially in those situations where you want to try and pin the ball deep, that can kind of help with the ball spinning back and not kicking forward in for a touchback. So just having that ability to chop and change what kick I'm going to use in a situation is really important and can really make a big difference in the team. But yeah, like from a spiral perspective, I'm still really trying to develop that and get more consistent and confident with it, because essentially for me, that's still a really new way of kicking the ball. And a different way of trying to maneuver. Obviously you get a little bit more hang time, a little bit more distance out of them. But for us, with our Aussie kick, you can be a little bit more controlled. I can be a little bit more precise on where I put the ball, just because I've grown up kicking a ball that way my whole life.
I wonder what rules you have to quickly remind yourself about before you step on the field to kind of be aware of. What things are you telling yourself to constantly be aware of? You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, the really important thing as a punter is catch the ball, kick the ball. You've got 11 guys that are getting after you pretty quickly, and there's some incredible athletes out there that have the incredible ability to get after the punter really quick. So making sure that from an operations standpoint, you're clean, you're quick, but you're also getting the ball in the spot where the rest of the team, the gunners, can get down and make a play and pin the ball deep or stop a returner from making a big return. I think we've done a great job this year at our special teams unit as a whole. Like guys like Chuck and Doc have done an incredible job at just getting down there and stopping returners from being able to make a play, which it's not just about me stepping up and making a good kick, but those guys play such an important role in stopping the other team from getting the ball back. So they make my job a lot easier for sure, because I don't want to have to lay a tackle. I will if they're there, but I don't want to have to. If that's happened, then I've probably not done my job.
I was wondering how strange it was for you to execute your craft with equipment on. Was that a weird thing, or was it just easy, not a
Yes,
big deal?
yeah, so back home in the academy, we actually practice with helmet and pads, and you come into the program, you step in, and we're used to, you know, in our sport, not wearing any pads. We don't have any of that, so obviously with the equipment we get back home, it's not as nice as the stuff we have here, so just getting used to the face mask, and it kind of limits a little bit of vision, and to be honest now, because I've been doing it for quite a while, it's just second nature. You just get used to it. Definitely on those hot days, it makes it a little bit more challenging. But yeah, it's just something that you don't even really think about anymore, just because you've done it so much.
I remember when we talked in August, you said you had a couple family members who were watching the NFL, kind of got into it. I never asked what your favorite NFL team was, how you still follow it.
Yeah, so I go for the Colts. And everyone's like, why the Colts? And kind of how when I was getting into the NFL and American football, this is probably 5-6 years ago, the team back home in Australian football that I support is called Carlton, and they're blue. So I was like, I'm going to pick a team that's blue and starts with C. So I could have picked the Colts, Cowboys, or Chargers, and I ended up picking the team at the time that had the worst record, which was the Colts. And ever since then, they've been the team that I've supported and followed, and hey, it's working out this year. It hasn't worked in past years, but they're doing well this year, so that's enjoyable.
Just out of curiosity, what town are you from in Australia, and here, I mean, what's your academic focus like? What are you studying?
Yeah, so back home, I grew up in Melbourne, Victoria. I probably grew up about 45 minutes out of the main city. I did live in Melbourne for a while as well with my wife, and beautiful city. I'm very biased, but one of the most beautiful cities you could ever go to in the world. And from an academic standpoint, back home, I was working in disability work, so I was working with a lot of kids on the autism spectrum, and I absolutely love that. My family were all pretty involved in that line of work, and wanted to kind of have an opportunity to further my studies, and there's a big need for occupational therapists back home, and I'm sure it's the same here as well. So that's a passion of mine that I'm working towards to become a qualified OT, which will just really give me an opportunity to go home and help a lot of kids and a lot of families in that situation. Because it's a challenging one. It's a big one for a lot of families with a kid that may be on the autism spectrum, and they need that support, and people that are skilled and have a passion and a love for that field of work.
Is that your end goal, to get your degree, then go back to Australia and pursue that?
To be honest, me and my wife are just kind of taking it a year at a time. We'll see what happens. Obviously, what opportunities come up, and kind of what happens in the future. We'll just go with the flow. That's kind of how I've lived my life. I always just go with the flow. I've done a lot of things. You know, obviously being a little bit older, I've had a chance to be in the workforce. I came out of high school and I worked in construction, and then I kind of found my way into support work and disability work, and I've just kind of learned that rather than trying to control it all, just go with the flow, see what happens, see what doors open up, and kind of just take an opportunity and go with it.
If you'd be comfortable sharing, you changed your number and told me this
Yep.
season to dedicate your uncle.
Yeah.
Just how do you kind of plan to honor him this season, and really just kind of honor your family back home, plan out the rest of the year? You know?
Yeah. So we had in our family a bit of an unfortunate situation where a really close uncle of ours unfortunately took his life, and that's why I had to travel back home for a couple of weeks to be there for the funeral. And he was one of my biggest fans. He grew up playing American football back home, so he knew the ins and outs of the sport. He was a big Raiders fan. He actually represented Australia as a running back when he was a little bit younger. And so, he's been along with me and my wife on this journey the whole time. And, unfortunately we've lost him now, but just for the rest of the season, and when I came back, chatting with the family, we just wanted to dedicate the rest of the season to him. And when I first got here, I had number 34, and when I got back, I asked Coach Huff, can I wear number 29, because that's the number that he used to wear. Just as a sign of honour to him, and really dedicate the rest of my season to him. And it's been challenging from a mental and emotional perspective, having to deal with that. I've never really lost someone close in my life, and I think it just gives me a totally different focus when I step out there at every practice and in every game. In that first game back against Georgia Southern, we do this thing in Australian football where, you know, to honour someone that's passed away, you normally wear a black armband on your arms. And if you notice in that game, I had some black armbands on, and that first punt after I hit it, I just tapped it for him. And yeah, I'm just, every way I can, I'm just trying to do my job to honour him. And obviously do a great job for the team. But yeah, that's been a challenging thing, but I've loved wearing number 29. It just feels right. I know his kids love it, and they've been so proud of me since I've come back. And yeah, I've got a really great support network back home. Getting up, watching games early in the morning. Yeah, it's been really cool.
Jack, I know you've been around a lot of coaches. How does Coach Huff, the football coach, compare to soccer coaches you've had?
Yeah, he's incredible. I can't fault him in any way as a coach. He has been incredible in my development as a footballer, from both a physical standpoint, someone that loves special teams, that has a special teams passion as well, but also just as a person, as a man. You can see him with the team, how he really has the respect of every single player in the team, and he loves us like we're his own. And for me, even as a bit of an older guy, that's such an important thing with my confidence, knowing that, you know, he's got our back in everything that we do. But yeah, he works us hard and in a great way, and he holds us accountable to standards, and that's such an important thing as a team, especially when you're wanting to succeed what we want to succeed. Yeah, honestly, I can't fault him. And even with all the personal stuff I went through, he's been so supportive in every aspect of that, and, you know, just helped me and my family as much as he could in such a tough time. So yeah, I'm really grateful and appreciative of Coach Huff and how he goes about his business, and it makes sense why wherever he goes he wins, because the standard that he sets is really top notch.
How would Charles Huff, the soccer coach, what would that be like?
I reckon it'd be the same. If he came and learned how to coach and play our sport, like, it'd be the same thing. He would, yeah, set a high standard, have high expectations, but also show that personal side of being a good person and loving his players and his team. And I think from a player perspective, that is such an important thing, knowing that you've got the love and the trust of your coach and he's on your side all the way. And so from my perspective, I just try to go out there and do my job and do as best I can for the team. But yeah, I think no matter what sport he coached, he'd excel at for sure.
Anything else? Jack, thank you.